and the weather is quite cold this morning, and I'm sure you're properly dressed. You're appropriately dressed for the weather, and especially for the children. We should do all we can to make sure that we dress them well in order for us to keep them safe and healthy. Welcome to the program once again. Don't forget you can join us on all social media platforms. We're live on Facebook right now at Splash FM 106.7 at Belkuta. You can also join us on Twitter at Splash FM 1067. Don't forget to use the hashtag Panorama on Splash if you're trying to, be a part of the program. Also, you can join us on WhatsApp 0817 555 1067. 0817 555 1067. When the time comes, we'll open the studio lines. Also, if you are not in Abeokuta, watch us live on Facebook or you join us on MixLR Splash FM Abeokuta. You can also download our mobile app on Google Play Store. It's quite easy. Just type Splash FM. Then you click on Splash FM Abeokuta. So listen live this morning to Panorama. It runs from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m.
That's right. Mariam and I will take you through the papers throughout the duration of the program from now till 10. And here's a breakdown of what to expect on the program this morning if you're just joining us for the first time. As I said, our issue of the day spans from now till 9. And basically, we choose one issue, one topic, one subject, and we examine it from all angles with the aid of an expert in that field. From 9 to 10 usually is our newspaper review segment that we call From the Pages. However, on Tuesday, there's a slight adjustment to that. So we have that for only 30 minutes. From the Pages runs from 9 to 9:30. We'll read headlines from the front pages of national dailies. And then we will segue into our sponsored program, our partnership with the Ogun State Health Insurance Agency to talk about health insurance for residents of the state. I'm sure this does concern you if you're listening to us from Ogun State. So from 9:30 to 10, we'll have ODSHA workers here in the studio with us. They'll answer your questions. They'll shed light on a particular area of the scheme. So you might want to listen out for that. As always, all through the program, you can let us know what you think of either our issue of the day or our newspaper review segment or even our discussion on the Ogun State Health Insurance Scheme. Miriam has reeled out all the social media channels by which you can do that: Facebook, WhatsApp, and Twitter. Now, with Twitter, once again, let me reiterate that the hashtag is important. So in your tweets, be sure to include hashtag Panorama on Splash so we can track your tweets and follow along. Once again, welcome to the program. Now, today's issue of the day shouldn't be a surprise because Gwega mentioned it last week and told you that we're going to follow up on the conversation that we started last week, Tuesday specifically. We began a conversation on private universities as an alternative to public universities in light of the ongoing strike by the Academic Staff Union of Universities. At the time, there were several university-based unions that were also on strike, not just ASU, but SANU and NASU and NAT. But on Saturday, the rest of the unions, some of them called off their strike. Others are holding meetings sometime this week. ASU says it's holding its own meeting next week. But so far, ASU hasn't really said much about, calling off the strike, although, as I said, it's holding its meeting next week. But in light of that, we chose our issue of the day last week. But somehow the conversation then devolved into ASU and whether it's culpable in the, ongoing fracas between it and the federal government. And so we thought it just right to follow up that conversation with a sequel today, where we'll be looking at ASU's role, perhaps in the ongoing rifts between it and the federal government. Obviously, this is not a victimless crime, so to speak, because the students have been away from school. Their academic calendar has been disrupted for
Yes.
over the past 6 months. I remember reading in the papers yesterday that the mother of the slain Lautech student was saying that if not for the ASU strike, her daughter would still be alive today.
Yes, she had an interview and she talked, because if you take a look at the story properly, the child went to, in search of a job, all because she wanted to get busy while ASU is on strike. That's why she decided to go to the hotel just to work. And according to report, the hotel was around the school, just for her to be very close in case they call off the strike so that she can go back to school. And that was why she went for that job. And while doing that job, the kidnappers came into the compound. They kidnapped her and the hotelier. So it wasn't really a very great story. It was quite sad because the situation keeps, degenerating into something that we just can't handle, something that is quite, tampering with not just our emotional health, but also the psychological health of the students, and it's a very sad situation. The
It
first time I
is.
heard the story, I felt so bad. I had to call, people around me, and I was telling them that this shouldn't be, this shouldn't happen. We weren't supposed to have this situation, but it happened, and it's just sad. We
It
just pray
is.
that the Lord will help the family and, grant them the fortitude to bear the irreparable loss.
I hope so too. I hope so too. In furtherance of the point that we're making, it is not a victimless crime. You may not be directly affected in that you may not have relatives who are in public tertiary institutions. However, in one way or the other, it affects us all. And we think it is worth a look today, which is why we chose it as our issue of the day. So without further ado, let's begin. You either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain, is an inspired quote from an unlikely source, DC Comics superhero action film, The Dark Knight. It is a seemingly apt metaphor for the perceived shift of public opinion towards ASU and its protracted yet intermittent strikes. Perhaps some people have tired of the government being the go-to whipping boy. Perhaps the fact of another 6 months long strike in less than 2 years has brought this on. Perhaps ASU does indeed have questions to answer. Who knows?
As you know, the Academic Staff Union of Universities embarked on a month-warning strike on the 14th of February this year, which has since been extended multiple times and is now in its seventh month. About a month after the commencement of a strike, other university-based unions like the Senior Staff Association of Nigeria Universities, SANU, Non-Academic Staff Union of Allied and Education Institute, NASU, and the National Association of Academic Technologists, NAT, followed with their own industrial action.
However, both SANU and NASU have agreed to suspend their strike for 2 months and are set to resume work tomorrow, with NAT holding its NEC meeting this Thursday and being fingered to equally suspend its strike. This leaves ASU as the only holdout among the university staff unions. Previously, ASU had, among other demands, sought for funds for the revitalization of universities, payment of earned academic allowances, adoption of UTAS in place of IPPIS. This time, its intransigence stems from the no work, no pay policy the federal government is set to adopt for the period of the strike.
For our issue of the day this morning, and as sequel to a conversation we began last Tuesday, let us assess ASU's actions to determine if the union has turned from victim to villain.
And to have that conversation with us in the studio is Professor Jendele Hungbo, who joins us now. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning. Thanks for inviting me.
Thanks for being here. All right, let's get into it. What are your thoughts on the actions of ASU? Perhaps most recently, the fact that ASU is maybe, one of two unions that has not yet suspended its strike. The federal government has said that it has made some offers. There are reports of 50 billion naira being doled out as end academic allowances to be shared among the unions. Federal government even says it's giving 100 million as well for, or 100 billion as well for revitalization funds. All this doesn't seem to have really moved ASU. And in light of it being the only one or one of two to not have called off its strike yet, do you think that is enough to make ASU seem like it is the one that is sort of recalcitrant?
Yeah, perhaps. Thank you very much. I think it's quite unfortunate that this is where we find ourselves again. I think the ASU federal government problem seems to be a microcosm for the bigger issue or for the bigger Nigerian issue. I think we should get to a point where we sit down to look at whether we actually want to have a country or whether we want to really make progress as a people, generally brought together under this geographical expression called Nigeria. Because if you look at the dynamics of the ASU federal government crisis, or not even say ASU, because we're actually looking at a problem that bedevils our higher education, in fact, the entire education sector generally. I think we really need to caution ourselves or bring ourselves to a confession to say we are a people who have decided that we really do not want to make progress. And when you do not want to make progress, I think the place it starts from is a destruction of instruction. And what that means is that you simply forget about the education sector. You learn nothing, you forget nothing, and you pick up nothing. So, because, I mean, if you look at the federal government saying, okay, we've made offers. But they've never told us the details of the offers. I mean, we should move beyond, dropping figures, humongous figures. Somebody started and said, no, we're not going to close down the country and give us so trillion of naira or so trillion of dollars and so on. And then the minister comes in to say, oh, we've given us 50 billion, we've approved so amount for the universities. And you see, when you do a negotiation, the conventional thing to do would be to say, hey, come, this is what we are offering, okay? And this is what they are rejecting, or this is what they are asking for, and this is what we cannot offer. And these are the reasons why we are offering what we are offering, and these are the reasons why we cannot offer what they are asking for. Then we will be, the books will then be open. And then people can then say, oh, ASU, why not? Oh, federal government, why this? Okay, but you come with this toga of arrogance as a minister or as ministers, because in this instance, I take together both the Minister of State for Labor and the Minister for Education.
Right.
I mean, who for me simply reasons just as an accountant, apology to all the accountants in the world, because we've seen better accountants anyway. Now, and it comes to talk about figures. I mean, there are 5 demands from ASU. Now, tell us that out of the 5 demands, we have met 4, or we have met all the 5, or we have met only 2, and these are the reasons why we cannot meet the other demands. Now, even the so-called IPPIS, UTAS, or whatever you call it, the minister vacillates because he was not even able to tell us that, oh, okay, this is what we have adopted. Oh, we are adopting a hybrid. He only comes to say, oh, yeah, it's true that we discovered some faults with IPPIS. He's not saying we are adopting UTAS. And the dynamics are clear. You said, they started by saying there could be no alternative to IPPIS simply because, I also do not support the fact that an employer should have to be the one telling an employee should have to be the one telling the employer how he should be paid. I don't have to bother about how I am paid if I am paid well or if I am paid appropriately. Because you see, we just import softwares without looking at the peculiarities of what we're dealing with. And for as long as we want to continue to lump everyone together as, oh, you work for government, so let government pay you anyhow. Of course, those who government are paying anyhow and are paying well are not complaining. It is only those who find some misfortune in their pay or some misfortune in the process by which they are paid, that will complain. And that's a normal thing to expect. That's also not to say that ASU is completely blameless in this problem. One of the problems I think that ASU has to also sit down to look at, is that, do you want to solve all the problems of the world? I mean, is ASU taking it upon itself to be the one to right all the wrongs in Nigeria? And that's why, you see, if you function in a country where people themselves have a problem, a general problem of public acquiescence, and you are in the situation of anything goes, it is the right person that is often perceived to be wrong. And that is why people are looking at us as wala impoju. Okay? The parents who are supposed to take government to account, all of the parents, or most of them, voted for this government, who are supposed to hold the government to account to say, hey, don't come here and abuse ASU, or don't turn us against ASU. Tell us first what ASU is asking for. Is it wrong? Because you're talking of a question of benchmarks. Now, against which benchmark has the Minister for Education spoken? When the minister came and said, oh, no, we can't do what they're asking for, or this is what we did, ASU is the only one not wishing to shift. And that turned out to be perhaps half a lie, because now we're beginning to see situations where members of these bodies that they are claiming have agreed to call off the strike and now say, no, our leaders never spoke to us. So already it's like a divide and rule. They already got a template with which they want to turn the unions against one another and then further deepen the crisis. Because if a union is telling you, okay, we're just going to suspend the strike for 2 months, does it mean that, okay, after 2 months, are you saying that by the 2 months you would have met all the demands of NASU, of SANU, of NAT, and there will be no further crisis in those institutions? And if you look at what they're offering these unions anyway, oh, we put this in the 2023 budget. Oh, we will look at this at a particular point. And if that's the basis upon which those unions have told you that they're going to call off their strikes, it means that we're not being sincere. Perhaps something else has happened somewhere. And then the point is this: if what we're talking about is that let us revitalize the institutions, and now coming back to ASU, I think ASU should think beyond the Cold War. And I'll explain that shortly. The Cold War era is gone. ASU should not see itself as a Marxist movement. One of the reasons why public perception about ASU is what it is that ASU continues to see itself as a Marxist movement. And what does a Marxist movement do? A Marxist movement believes that government should always offer the public good for the interest of everybody. And that goods and services, or the prices or the cost of goods and services, should never be determined by market forces. And in doing that, ASU is fighting for the public. But the public for which ASU is fighting is now seeing ASU as an enemy. They keep saying, oh, no, you are the ones who will not allow our children to go to school. How? Now, if when the minister was talking, if he was doing a local benchmark, let him say that, oh, in Nigeria, the highest paid employee, I'm not even talking about government functionaries or politicians. Let him say, oh, the highest paid employee in Nigeria is paid, say, 500,000. And ASU is asking for 501,000. If he says that, that's a local benchmark. To say, oh, why does ASU want to be paid higher than the highest paid civil servant or the highest paid employee in Nigeria? At least as far as I know, a permanent secretary in Nigeria, in any state in Nigeria, will still earn more than what a professor earns. Okay? Will also still earn what a professor will earn if ASU would also earn more than what a professor would earn if ASU had accepted the 60,000 plus for a professor that the government was willing to offer.
No, but sorry,
Okay.
sorry for cutting you short.
Yeah.
Are you saying now that the grade level system that they practice in the normal civil
service, yes,
it does not apply to ASU or
It
to
does.
the universities? It does.
It
Then
does.
why is there disparity in the payments according
Okay,
to what you
they will be the ones to answer that question. Okay, now there's the grade level that you offer, I mean, or that you earn in the universities is either you see they've come from various things, HATIs, UTs, and now they're talking about CONUAS and things like that. Now, because it is a peculiarity that makes you take a particular name or call it a particular thing, whatever, so that you don't, as a professor, for example, okay, you can only be on Konwa say 7. That's the convention, okay, grade level 7. Okay, but it's not the same amount of money that is attached to a grade level 7 in the civil service, because that's not how they do it. A permanent secretary, for instance, will either be on level 16 or level 17. Okay. So the figures are different, but it is the dynamics. But okay, in the academics, the highest you go is 7. And so when we want to talk about what is the highest person paid, so the highest person paid, for instance, of Corner 7, and is a professor. Okay, that's why I'm talking about highest paid. So if you want to benchmark that, you have to compare that with the highest paid in the civil service, who should be on level 17. How much does a director on 17 or a permanent secretary who is consolidated, how much does he earn? Okay? Go check the records. And if there are permanent secretaries who earn less than 700,000, for instance, in Ogun State, let them phone and tell us. And then you now say, oh, a professor who earns 420,000 should add 60,000 to that. That's 480. So for me, the government has not really made a sincere offer. Because when you want to hold people to account, and that's a local benchmark, okay? Let's go to the international benchmark, which is the most important, which is supposed to be one of the most important things for the university system. Because a university now becomes a global product. A university is not benchmark. What is the vision of the education minister, for instance, for Nigerian universities? Is it that you want to see at the end of your tenure that at least a Nigerian university is ranked number 1 in Africa? We are not talking about number 1 in the Commonwealth. We're talking about just number 1 in Africa. Okay? Or even number 1 in West Africa. If that's your vision, come and tell us. And the metrics that will be used to measure that would have to do, you know, all the factors. How much of international students do you attract? How much of international faculty or international staff do you attract? I mean, when we were students, we were taught by people who had experience from Ghana, India, all over the place. Okay? And that enriched the quality of instruction that we got. And that is why the international benchmark or the ranking institutes would look at all those factors. In fact, I told somebody something. I said, don't even start from that level. The first question you should ask is, take an average federal institution in Ogun State and ask the question, how many students are from the north? How many are from the east? How many are from the south-south? That's where you begin from. I was a master's student in UI, and I had a colleague from Niger. I had a colleague from Ghana. Okay? But do you see those things now? Because, take for example, if you convert the salary of a professor now, if you take the existing one, 420, would that give you up to $1,000? And what is the global average? The global average for a professor is between $4,000 and $6,000. So if somebody, hold on, just 1 second, you ask your question, but let me just finish this one. If you want to ask somebody from Ghana to come and work as a professor in Nigeria, what he's going to look at, for example, is if I convert my cedis to dollars, how much will it be? If I now convert the naira I'm going to be offered in Nigeria to dollars, it's going to be less than $1,000, so I'm not coming. So ask your question now.
All right, let's go on a commercial break. We'll come back and, of course, continue this conversation of whether and why, if so, ASU has turned from victim to villain. We'll be right back. This is Panorama on Splash. Stay with us.
Don't dare touch that dial. It's Splash, your integrity station.
Fún ìtẹ̀síwájú ayẹyẹ ọdún kẹta ti Fractus Family Estate and Investments Limited tí ń talẹ̀ ìrọ̀rùn fọ́mọ Nàìjíríà. Ẹ̀dínwó sì ń lọ lórí àwọn ilẹ̀ wa gbogbo. Divine Grace ní Randa 100,000 naira dípò 150,000 naira. Ilẹ̀ Pàkúdí Ọ̀bádà Oko àti Diamond Estate nítòsí Buhari Estate lọ́nà Kọ̀bàpẹ́ 200,000 naira dípò 300,000 naira. Ilẹ̀ oko fáwọn àgbà afọkọ́sọ̀rọ̀ ní Ọ̀bà àti Ọ̀bádà Ìjẹ̀mí 30,000 naira dípò 40,000 naira. Pẹ̀lú ìfọwọ́sowọ́pọ̀ yín Fractus Farmers Club yóò bá yín ṣètò dídáko àti kíkórè oko nírọ̀rùn. Àǹfààní wà fún gbẹ̀tán tàbí san díẹ̀díẹ̀. Bẹ́ẹ̀ bá ṣe ń san owó ilẹ̀ yín. Ẹ ó yóò tún máa gba àwọn ẹ̀bùn ọdún oríṣiríṣi. adùn ibẹ̀ gangan ni wípé ẹni tó bá san 50,000 naira nínú owó ilẹ̀ yóò gbàrà fún draw ticket. èyí tí ẹni mẹ́ta ọ̀tọ̀ọ̀tọ̀ yóò ti fi 1 million naira ṣèfàjẹ́. gbogbo ẹ̀ fún ayẹyẹ ọdún kẹta yìí náà ni o. láti àkókò yìí títí lọ di ọjọ́ kẹẹ̀ẹ́dógún oṣù kẹsàn-án ọdún tá a wà nínú rẹ̀ yìí ní àǹfààní yìí máa dópin o. láti pẹ̀lú àwọn olóríire já Jide Jones Way beside Aira Kitchen Òkèléwú Abẹ́òkúta tololo 0702 5636 0702 5636 mákànrà lẹ̀ṣá ìfọkànbalẹ̀ ní kó ra.
ìgbádùn ti yá ìgbádùn rẹpẹtẹ iléeṣẹ́ Educas Travels ló ń kó wa lọ sí ìlú ọba London là ń lọ lọ́wọ́ tá a wà yìí o ìgbádùn rẹpẹtẹ ni ó yẹ wá bá wa lọ.
London Bliss ní tọ̀tẹ̀ yìí o iléeṣẹ́ Educas Travels kó wa lọ báyìí pẹ̀lú àwọn ìgbádùn lọ́lọ́kan òjọ̀kan iléeṣẹ́ Educas Travels and Tour ẹkú tìmọ̀tìwà bẹ́ẹ̀ wípé ìgbádùn tí yín ló jẹ wá lógún ìlú London là ń lọ báyìí London Bliss ká lọ jẹ ìgbádùn àdéhùn àti àsọyédè máa wà hotel accommodation visa city tour flight ticket airport transfer gbogbo ẹ̀ ní Educas Travels and Tour o lè lọ pẹ̀lú ẹbí rẹ bó ṣe wọ nìkan náà ló fẹ́ dá lọ wákàjọ rìnrìn àjò yìí tó máa lóyin ládùn láti Saturday 22nd sí Saturday 29 oṣù October ọdún 2022 yìí la fi máa rìnrìn àjò yìí fún ẹ̀kúnrẹ́rẹ́ àlàyé ẹ lè kàn sí ọ́fíìsì wa tó wà ní kìlómítà 1 Abetu Junction Abiola Way Abẹ́òkúta nípínlẹ̀ Ògùn telephone 09099977001 àti 07039301361 ìgbádùn aláìlópin ní tọ̀tẹ̀ yìí ẹ jẹ́ ká jọ rìnrìn àjò.
àṣeyọrí gan làgbà iṣẹ́ gbogbo aláṣeyọrí ayọ̀ aláṣeyọrí class home and property limited lónìí ọ̀pọ̀ ilẹ̀ wọn ti di wámútìrẹ́ báyìí lórí owó tí kò ga ju ara lọ randa extension hilltop máwùkọ́ àti kọ̀bàpẹ́ 100,000 ní plọ̀tì yìí bẹ́ẹ̀ sì ń lo kọ́ wọn ti di ọ̀pọ̀ yùkẹ́ mo lọ́kẹ̀dẹ̀ 25,000 ní plọ̀tì kan bẹ̀ kọ̀bàpẹ́ alábàtà òṣìṣẹ́lẹ̀ 30,000 ní plọ̀tì ẹ̀ra plọ̀tì mẹ́ta kẹ́ẹ̀gbá ìdajì sí bó sì jẹ́ ékalẹ̀ra òdìdí lẹ́gbàsí pẹ̀lú ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ àǹfààní tẹ́ẹ̀jẹ̀ lórí ilé oko wọn torí pé àwọn onírà àti onímọ̀ ìjìnlẹ̀ ti wà níkàlẹ̀ láti là ń lọ́yẹ̀ lórí kan tẹ́ gbìn sí ilé oko tẹ́ bára 4 mọ̀túndì abiola way ilégoro daily express furniture ni wọ́n wà ọlọ́ṣogbo abẹ́òkúta Ògùn state 08033086557 08033086557 lóòótọ́ àṣeyọrí gan làgbà iṣẹ́ bẹ́ẹ̀ ń bá ń bá wa ná dandan ní kẹ́ láṣeyọrí ayọ̀ lọ́dọ̀ tiwa.
30 oṣù kẹjọ làǹfààní yìí ó pin.
bí ojúmọ́ ṣe ń mọ́ làwọn tó fẹ́rẹ̀ ẹ̀rọ ìbánisọ̀rọ̀ handset ni wọ́n ń pọ̀ sí i ibi tí wọn ò bá yà sí láti ra ojúlówó ẹ̀rọ ìbánisọ̀rọ̀ ló ń ṣe wọ́n lọ́kàn kámi torí wọ́n ń ṣẹ́jú sí wọn lọ́tún ni wọ́n tún ń pè wọ́n lọ́sì ó yẹ ẹ jẹ́ kí wọ́n ó gbọ́ ká má wulẹ̀ ṣẹ́jú sí oníbàárà mọ́ ọ̀dọ̀ símọ̀ tó ń tẹ ojúlówó ẹ̀rọ ìbánisọ̀rọ̀ ni wọ́n ń bọ̀ àbí ṣẹ́ pẹ́ mọ̀ ni símọ̀ òkè téńté ló wà lórí tábìlì àwọn tó ń ta ojúlówó ẹ̀rọ ìbánisọ̀rọ̀ bẹ́ẹ̀ èrè àjẹjù kò tún sí lọ́rọ̀ wọn kì í pààrọ̀ bátìrì tó bá fóònù wá torí àtúntò tà á fẹ́ lómi ní fọ́lùkọ́ símọ̀ mà ní àyè san díẹ̀ kó gba fóònù kó máa wá sanwó tó kù díẹ̀díẹ̀ kí lè ta fóònù símọ̀ ló fi yàn lọ́kàn balẹ̀ jùlọ ó yá gbé fún símọ̀ ní torí àǹfààní ń bẹ fún oníbàárà tó bá bá wa ra fóònù lóṣooṣù láti fi ẹ̀bùn tó jọjú ṣèfàjẹ́ ó lè jẹ́yìn lẹ máa jẹ ẹ̀bùn tó ṣù yìí gbogbo ó dòkè tí ń tẹ́ lókè léwó bí láfẹ́ wọn bá súnmọ́ ẹ̀yìn àdójúkọ first bank láfẹ́ wa gangan ní símọ̀ wà ó yẹ pé 08064476837 símọ̀.
Akọ́lé mara lẹ̀.
ohun tí kò kúnni lójú ó ṣeé ṣe kó kúnni lẹ́nu níléeṣẹ́ àgbájọ homes and property Nigeria limited wọ́n ní àwọn ti ṣe tábà yìí láti sọlẹ̀ àwọn di ọ̀pọ̀ kọ́yọ̀kú fún gbogbo ènìyàn ilé òṣèlè Gúúsì estate ti di 100,000 naira báyìí ìkèrèkú ìdán 100,000 láìra plọ̀tì bẹ́ẹ̀ sì ni ilẹ̀ randa náà ti di 100,000 naira èyí tí wọ́n tún fún yín láǹfààní láti rí àwọn ohun èlò ìkọ́lé lówó tí kò ga jọra lọ ẹ sì lè máa san díẹ̀ títí ó fi parí ilé yín ilé oko àpèsè ọbádà ìdíẹ̀mẹ àti orílẹ̀ èlúgùn bẹ́ẹ̀ bá ti ra plọ̀tì mẹ́ta ẹ ó gba ìdajì sí i lórí 30,000 per plot tẹ́ bá sì ra éèkà kan ẹ ó gbódìdí ilẹ̀ kan sí i ilé oko alábàtà pẹ̀lú òṣèlè náà bẹ́ẹ̀ bá ti ra plọ̀tì mẹ́ta lórí 40,000 naira ẹ láǹfààní láti gba ìdajì sí i bó sì jẹ́ éèkà kan lẹ́ra ẹ gbódìdí plọ̀tì kan lé lórí 39 NTA road ọgbẹ́ Abẹ́òkúta 07044648338 07044648338 ìparí oṣù kẹsàn-án láǹfààní yóò pè ẹ̀sùn tẹ́lẹ̀tẹ́lẹ̀ ní ìdìbò.
Akọ́lé mara lẹ̀.
Splash FM 106.7. Panorama.
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 Panorama on Splash 106.7 FM.
All right. welcome back to Panorama on Splash 106.7 FM. If you are just joining us, well, the conversation has started from 8 a.m. and we have in the studio with us Professor Jendele Hungbo. We are talking about the ASU issue. Well, it is a continuation of our conversation from last week. We are assessing ASU's action to determine if the union has turned from victim to villain, and he has been doing justice to the discussion. But let me ask you this question. Let's go to the foundation of this issue with ASU.
Sure.
According to ASU, they had an agreement with federal government in
2009, yeah.
And they were expecting the agreement to get implemented. But I remember in 2019 there was 2019-2020 there was an issue whereby the federal government came out and said that they decided to invent the IPPIS because they felt that there is no transparency in the university system.
Good, yeah.
Also, there is also the issue of corruption. That's why they decided to invent IPPIS so that they will be able to streamline these issues. Also, ASU came out and they did mention the fact that, okay, you are complaining about corruption, you're complaining about transparency, but with IPPIS, we will not be able to have visiting lecturers from outside the country to help us with this IPPIS. We won't be able to afford them because we need them also to improve the education system. So they came from that angle. Now, which of them do you think is actually, because if people are to look at the argument from both sides, they feel like the federal government is right, ASU also is right. So why can't they move and just meet
or have a middle ground? Now, I think the basic problem is the fact that people who have not spent time to understand the academic system are the ones who have been most vocal in talking about this problem. And IPPI is even beyond the question of, say, we want a visiting lecturer. Okay. Now, why do you create separate salary structures for certain professions? It is because of the peculiarities of those professions. And if you want to take care of the peculiarities of a particular profession, you need to look deeply into it and first understand the dynamics of the profession. Take, for example, you work in broadcasting. I know for a fact that it took Ratawu and maybe some other sister unions in the broadcast industry to get a special pay for broadcasters. It's not a good pay, though, in Nigeria. Why? Because the nature of your job. I mean, if you have to come here and do a program at 1 a.m. and you are married, for example, you have to explain to your husband why you will not be in bed by 1 a.m. That's a peculiarity. A civil servant does not do that. A civil servant goes to his office, or just say normal civil servant, goes to his office 7:30. By 4:30 at most, he's off. He can go drink beer, can go do anything. If you open a bottle of beer, Lola, and your station manager calls you, you may not be able to take a sip of that beer because you have to go. I mean, that's a peculiarity. If your job involves, say, extensive travel, that's a peculiarity. Those are the things that are factored in. If your job involves some form of hazard, that's a peculiarity. That's why you also have a special salary scale, say for doctors, for nurses. You don't begin to talk about hazard. Now, so in the academic line, what people do is that they just come say things without really looking at the exact thing we're talking about. Now, if you say IPPI, one of the problems they had with IPPI is sabbatical. And I laughed. Because when you talk about sabbatical, it's because of the way we look at sabbatical in Nigeria. Sabbatical is not that go to another university to teach. No. What sabbatical means is research. Go to another university, whether locally or internationally, see how they do what you do. Do they do it better than you? If they do it better than you, learn the new tricks. And bring back those new tricks to your own, to guide your teaching here. They've forgotten that the mandate of an academic It's not just teaching. You have 3 mandates as an academic. You teach, you research, and you do community engagement, or what you call community service. Unfortunately, the way academics are treated in Nigeria has made them to retreat from 2 of their core mandates, from research and from community engagement. I hear people talk about, no, what ASU is not productive. Who says? You need to go to those universities, Nigerian universities, and see the quality research lying there. But this research are not transmitted beyond where they lie because of the disconnect. I think it's the disconnect we should begin to deal with.
And that's not a fault of ASU?
It is not the fault of ASU. If you do a research and the uptakers who are supposed to take that research and make use of it just say you are stupid. A good example is how government first treated UTAS before they began to talk about, I think there's something good in UTAS. Until ASU said, subject both UTAS and IPPIS, subject it to integrity test.
But UTAS has opened the way for other unions to also come up with their own solutions.
Of course.
U3PS.
Yeah, they will come up. But what was the initial rebuff? The initial thing was that, no, you want to, because you want more money. It's not about money. Look, why did they do the needs assessment? Was it also not at the instance of ASU? I said, okay, look at the facilities. I studied in Nigeria and I studied abroad. The treatment I got as a student abroad, far better than the treatment I got as a student here. I got a hostel accommodation. Let me not mention the university for now. I got a hostel accommodation which I couldn't use. Because how on earth, for example, do you want me to sleep 4 in a room? Okay, if you are a Muslim and I'm a Christian and we are in the same room and it is Ramadan and you have to pray at 12 midnight and I want to sleep. But let's even say not religion now. We are also the same, Christian. You want to sleep at 4 a.m. I want to read at 4 a.m. when I have to put on the lights and you have to switch off the lights. Elsewhere, you students, 1 in a room. Maximum, if you must, 2. Not the ones you have here. It was because of the cry of ASU that they now began to look at the possibility of investing in infrastructure in these institutions. How long did it take for government to even for institutions to even be able to afford internet for their students? ASU kept crying. They said, what not. And how do you do any quality research if you do not do collaboration with other people elsewhere? In the course of collaboration, for example, both of you get respect only when you have at least half the resources that your collaborators there have. If you don't have anything, they're going to look down on you. And when the ranking comes, they're going to rank them higher than they will rank you. Whichever form of ranking, Times, higher education, webometrics, anything.
Right.
Even the ones NUC does here. It's because we do, okay, fine, NUC. UI is number 1. Covenant is number 2. IFE is number 3. Fine. But the question is, have they asked, for example, has the Minister of Education bothered to know why whenever webometrics does its ranking, the 5 best universities are in South Africa? Number 1 to 5 in Africa. And then number 6, Ghana. 7, Tunisia. 9, Nigeria. And you are giant. And you are not ashamed. What kind of giant? Which kind of giant does that?
Right.
Or which kind of giant does not have shame?
All right, I want to hold on one hand what you said about ASU perhaps trying to fix everything that's wrong.
Sure.
And maybe that being the reason for
that's where ASU is also
the
getting it
shifts
wrong.
In public opinion.
Sure.
But on the other hand, central perhaps to ASU's demands is more funds, either for end academic allowances, salary scale or revitalization of the universities, more funds. And the federal government has said, we can't bleed anymore. I mean, there's simply no more. You can't get money out of a rock.
Have they really bled?
Well, they are kind of saying that you can't get money out of a rock.
Sure.
That there's no money to give.
No money to
simply,
give. Yeah.
Whether one believes it or not. ASU questions that.
That's blackmail.
ASU is questioning that.
Sure.
She's saying, you can't say that when you are spending all this money on this and that and that.
Yeah.
But some people have suggested that ASU itself should get creative with its funding. You talked about research and it not being a question of ASU not doing research, but that research not being taken up and perhaps maybe commercialized in some way. In this story here in the Tribune, we have students who are appealing to ASU and the federal government to consider public-private partnership.
Sure.
What are your thoughts on this? On perhaps ASU, if not running completely on its own internally generated revenue, but seeking other sources? Because another thing that's been repeated is that if the federal government agrees to bump up salaries by a certain percentage and give us this money, it is not a one-time solution. It is something that will run for years. And with accumulating debts and perhaps a revenue source that's not increasing, it may not be sustainable in the long term. So what are your thoughts on that as to considering funding?
Now, see, first and foremost, I do not think it is a responsibility of the employee to tell the employer how he runs his business. But if that's what responsibility they want to give to ASU, there are several templates. The first thing you need to do is go and look at success stories all over the world and how have they been that successful. What stops the Nigerian government, for example, to say, let's come and sit down, call all the stakeholders, not only ASU, non-academic, politicians, everybody, who are stakeholders in education, to sit down and look at what the problems are. And my suspicion is this. The number one problem you will probably see is that we have too many universities in Nigeria. People keep saying they are not enough, and I say no, they are enough. It's just that the ones we have are not big enough. Okay? One university in the UK or in the US, we buy all your 101 private universities in Nigeria. Just one. We buy them and swallow them. Okay? I've worked in a university before where you see the budget every year of that university. It is not as if you are going to hold accountable for the funding of your university. It should be the governing council who is a representative of government. Because, you see, government wants to own everything, but does not want to take responsibility for anything. In the first instance, we have no business saying this is a federal university, this is a state university, this is a private, this is a faith-based, this is unfaith-based. What has faith got to do with your university? What has being federal or being state? All people want to care about. If you talk about, say, Olabisi Onabanjo University today, I mean, somebody goes online, he's not going to read your about. He's not going to go to, he's not bothered about who owns the university. He's bothered about the kind of research you do there, the kind of things you offer, what kind of faculty, who are you able to attract? In those days, people will specifically choose they want to come study in Nigeria because they know that they're going to meet a particular kind of quality, especially when it has to do with teaching and research on African-based issues. The immediate post-colonial environment threw up Nigeria as one of the best academic environments because the arts thrived, the social sciences thrived, and we're also doing well in the core sciences. UNILAG, for example, aeronautics engineering in UNILAG, go check the records. Or UI, who would do anything literature, African literature, that would not want to come to UI? In the 60s, 70s, it was impossible. And UI was competing with Makerere, with all the places. So how did all these universities, how did they overtake? This university in South Africa had to struggle at a time to cope with UI. But now you look at the point, this came number one in Africa, and UI was distant. And we don't care. Now, if you're talking about funding model, whether PPP or whatever you call it, the point is government ready to hands off issues around governing council? Or make sure that those you're going to appoint to the governing council are people who know about what you have asked them to go there to do. Don't use governing council as patronage for people. I mean, recently I saw a list of governing councils in Ogun State, and I shook my head. Some of them are good. Some members of the councils are good, but some of them are not. You could give them some other things if you just want to do job for the boys or job for the girls. Give them some other things. They don't have to be. Because if you go sit on the council of a university, I don't understand what they do there. You probably just want to go there to drink tea and coffee.
Okay, it's time for you to be a part of the program. The studio lines are now open. All you have to do is to call 0704 400 1067, or you call 0817 555 1067, or you call 0705 050 1067. This morning we are taking a look at ASU's actions to determine if the union has turned from victim to villain. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning, madam.
Good morning. We can hear you. Turn down the volume on your radio set, please.
Okay. We thank God for the professor there. The only thing
What is your name before you proceed?
My name is Olusola, and my name is Olusola from Okareba.
Thank you for calling. Go ahead.
You see, the Nigerians, especially the party in power now, they don't recognize education. They don't think education is important. That's what I say. Number two, see, the universities are supposed to be the guidelines for the people, for the government. They are supposed to be the wire, the fire, the learning fire for the government, for Nigeria. But now they are relegated to the background. Like this COVID-19, we saw other countries. The universities, the professors are gathered together, to look at what they can do, how they can solve the problem. We bought many things from overseas concerning the COVID-19. But we have knowledgeable professors in Nigeria who can do it. But because Nigeria doesn't want education, they need other things more than education. That's why they relegated education to the background.
All right.
So I thank you, Professor, for what you have been saying. It's true that the Nigeria, especially the government that is running in Nigeria now, they hate education.
Thank you. Thank you, Shola, for your contribution. I think what you're saying is that lecturers or academics are absent from the quest for national development or moving the country forward. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning. Nicholas.
Go ahead, please.
Good morning.
Morning.
You see, there's nothing wrong in a country that is wealthy and only few are rich. There's nothing wrong with a Marxist ideology. It's better we all have good water to drink than champagne for a few. And even in Europe and America, they are faith-based institutions. In fact, some of the universities arose from seminaries and monasteries. ASU stands are clear. It is this government stands that are not clear. But this government has enough money for Afghanistan, for Niger, for ransoms, and even for serving ministers to spend as much as 100 million to try to become presidents. What do we, if ASU tries to lay the templates for the world to change and for Nigeria to change, it's not treason. And I don't even think it's fair to compare 60-year-old universities, which is the oldest for the oldest university in Nigeria, to universities that are over 300 years in civilized and more developed states. But with what we have, the average Nigerian student is trying his best under the circumstances that he faces. And if I may say, the way a professor in a private university would view this crisis would differ from the way a professor in the public university would view it. This country has public schools. This country has public schools that were very good and were the envy of the world until it got messed up.
Thank you, Nicholas, for your contribution. 0704 400 1067 0817 444 1067 0817 555 1067, which is also the WhatsApp number, and 0705 050 1067. Twitter at Splash FM 1067. WhatsApp, I've read out the number. Facebook Splash FM 106.7.
All right, real quick on WhatsApp, this person is saying there is no justification. There is no justification for anyone to blame the ASU on the protracted strike because their demands. Okay, let's pick this call. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning, Splash FM.
Good morning. What's your name?
Aru Jendele is my name. Prof, good morning.
Good morning.
Professor Jendele was close to it when he was mentioning the issue of governing council. As we look at the way the profligacies going on in the universities are not better than state governments or the way even the federal government spends money anyhow. How can what are 14 members doing as governing council members? Do you know what happens, how much is expended on them after a meeting? Many of them take home like 100,000 naira each after a meeting as sitting allowance. I think the universities should look inward more. What are they? What? If you look at what is happening, many of these professors have been taking offices. You know, I know the university runs on committee system, but you see, there are many of them who have not returned to classes. Full time is either you are director this, and you did that for a space of 10 years. Where is that? I mean, what time are you devoting to research? The money being expended in the university system is too much, and there is corruption.
All right.
I think in the case of physicians, heal thyself. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ayara Wujulu, for your contribution.
Okay, let's go back to... let's pick this call.
Last call before the break. Hello, good morning. All right, we lost you. Okay, have you back. Hello? All right, then let's go back to WhatsApp.
Real quick to WhatsApp. There is no justification for anyone to blame the ASU on the protracted strike because their demands are not new, while government have been lackadaisical in meeting the demands. I also believe that the ministers handling the education and labor ministries are not helping matters, maybe because none of them is from the ASU constituency and may not really understand the plight of the ASU members. Dakpo Adeyemi from Ibara, Abeokuta, is saying that this morning. Still on WhatsApp real quick. Good morning. Your guest is biased and sentimental. All his presentation to defend ASU's unfriendly actions. I heard him say it's not the responsibility of employee to tell employer what to do in terms of revenue generation, but he missed the fact that it is also not the responsibility of employee to tell employer what to do in terms of finances and how to pay their salaries, reference to IPPIS and the likes. ASU also wants to be paid for the months they stay at home, not working. Isn't that unfair? ASU's own is getting too much, Jerry. Ambassador Johnson from Shoyoye.
All right.
Shoyoye.
We'll get back to the rest of your comments, maybe take a few more calls, all that and more when we return from this commercial break. Please stay with us.
Panorama.
Panorama. Panorama.
Panorama.
Panorama.
Panorama on Splash 106.7 FM.
It's time to close shop on all the radio stations. The king is now in the city.
Thank you.
Welcome to Splash 106.7 FM at Abeokuta.
Honey, must you go?
Babe, you know I must. Besides, you can always video call me.
What if your battery runs out?
I've got my power bank.
Hey, and when your power bank runs out?
Babe, I've got my laptop.
Okay, wait. What if your data runs out?
Babe, you know we never run out of data.
Never run out of data with Airtel Home Broadband Unlimited Ultra plans. Enjoy unlimited data with no speed cap plus extra data daily, so you never have to worry about running out. Visit www.airtel.com.ng/HBB to get started.
Babe, but I just left the house.
Yes, honey. It's video calling all the way.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
nípa ìyá wọn bàbá wa iṣẹ́ àgbẹ̀
Iléeṣẹ́ First January Agro Investment Limited ti ṣetán láti bá ìwọ náà múra ọjọ́ ọ̀la rẹ sílẹ̀. Ìwọ ṣàtìrí dájú pé ó pẹ̀lú ọ̀kan nínú àwọn àgbẹ̀ tí wọ́n fẹ́ gbin igi ọ̀pẹ fún níparí oṣù September ọdún yìí. Éèkà kan ilẹ̀ naira 850,000 péré ní báyìí. Ìwọ ló máa ní éèkà kan ilẹ̀ yẹn títí láíláí. Igi ọ̀pẹ 60 tó bá tún wà lórí ilẹ̀ ọ̀hún ìwọ ló tún ní. Kò tán síbẹ̀ o, odidi ọdún 5 gbáko ni wàá fi máa gba ìdá 5 owó tó fi gbin igi ọ̀pẹ náà lọ́dọọdún. Bí ó bá ti wá di ọdún kẹfà, wọ́n á fọ oko ọ̀pẹ rẹ lé ọ lọ́wọ́ lọ́dọọdún. Epo ìsebẹ̀ tí ọ̀pẹ rẹ á máa fún ọ 750 litres. Ó kéré tán wàá máa rí 450,000 naira lórí epo nìkan ni o. Má bẹ̀rù torí abẹ́rẹ́ tó lókun nídìí. Nílé iṣẹ́ First January Agro Investment Limited pé 081 65 64 65 35.
Ikú ọmọ kì í ṣe tèmi o. Ìwọ ń kọ́.
Ikú ọgbọ́dọ̀ pa mí lọ́mọ èèwọ̀. Ikú ọgbọ́dọ̀ pa mí lọ́mọ èèwọ̀.
Ó yẹ o. Gbogbo abiyamọ lákùnrin àti lóbìnrin. Ẹ jẹ́ ká fi àdúrà yìí ikú dànù lórí àwọn ọmọ wa. Níbi ìpàdé àdúrà ọlọ́jọ́ mẹ́ta gbáko. Tolúwa gbé kalẹ̀ sínú ilé Ọlọ́run. The City of David Prayer Ministry. Orí òkè àgbàlá àánú. Odi Laro Road. Ìdí Mangoro bus stop. Òkè àtà ìtọ́ ṣàbẹ̀ òkúta. Ikú ọmọ kì í ṣe tèmi. Ńlá kò rí àdúrà alágbára ọlọ́jọ́ mẹ́ta yìí. Tí yóò wáyé láti ọjọ́ Thursday ọjọ́ kẹẹ̀ẹ́dọ́gbọ̀n sí Saturday ọjọ́ kẹtàdínlọ́gbọ̀n oṣù kẹjọ yìí. August 25 to 27. Láago méje òwúrọ̀ ojoojúmọ́. Ẹ bá ń bọ̀. Ẹ kú àwọn ọmọ yín dání. Nítorí àkànṣe ìfàmìlóyọ̀ fún wọn. Special nursing service for them all. Obìnrin yẹn ní. Nígbà tí mo gò ó fín. Òkú ọmọ kì í ṣe tèmi. Ìwọ náà máa bọ̀. Pẹ̀lú àwọn ọmọ rẹ. Ní ibi ìpàdé àdúrà ikú ọmọ kì í ṣe tèmi. Ní City of David Prayer Ministry. Orí òkè àgbàlá àná. Agbára Ọlọ́run. Nípasẹ̀ àdúrà látẹnu wòlíì ìrajè. Prọfẹ̀t JB Adéyẹmí. Yóò yí ikú dànù lórí àwọn ọmọ rẹ. Fún àlàyé síwájú sí. Ẹ pè 080 355 30895. Ó ti yẹ ẹjẹ́ ká lọ. Gbogbo wa là ń bọ̀. Jésù lolúwa.
ABR ọ̀rẹ́ àgbẹ̀ àbísúyọ lóko bọ̀pá dé. Wọ́n ní ẹ ò gbọ́dọ̀ kárí ẹ̀ lórí ìgbọ̀ ọ̀tún. Pàápàá àǹfààní tó gbọ́mọpọ̀n dáadáa. Ilẹ̀ oko mo lọ́gẹ̀dẹ̀ orílẹ̀ ìlúgùn Ọlọ́run dá 25,000 ní plọ̀tì báyìí. Ẹ ra plọ̀tì mẹ́ta kẹ́ ẹ gba ìdajì sí i. Wọ́n sì jẹ́ éèkà lẹ́ra ẹ gba plọ̀tì kan sí i. Ilẹ̀ àgbẹ̀ kọ́bápá alábàtà ọ̀pẹ́jì 30,000 per plot. Bẹ́ẹ̀ bá ra plọ̀tì mẹ́ta ìdajì lẹ́gbà sí i. Wọ́n sì jẹ́ éèkà lẹ́ra ẹ ó gbòdìdì kan sí i. Àwọn onírà ti wà ńlẹ̀ láti ra èrè oko yín. 39 NTA Road Ọ̀gbẹ̀ Abẹ́òkúta 08033 70 6236 08033 70 6236. ABR ọ̀rẹ́ àgbẹ̀ àbísúyọ lóko bọ̀kọ̀ ìgbọ̀tún fáwọn àgbẹ̀.
30 oṣù kẹjọ làǹfààní yóò pín.
Ogun State Internal Revenue Service presents Ogun State Electronic Tax Administration Portal, OGETax. Now you can transact all your businesses online with Ogun State Internal Revenue Service by logging on to their website ogirs.ogunstate.gov.ng. Click on self-service to get to the OGIRS portal. Transact your businesses either as a corporate organization or an individual. Follow the promptings, fill out the necessary details required to get your tax identification number. Existing organizations and individuals will need only to validate their accounts. Organizations can file their monthly and annual returns by downloading and filling the exact template, upload the data, and make payments, while individuals can also transact their stamp duty, direct assessment, and so on. Log on to ogirs.ogunstate.gov.ng and transact all your businesses online with Ogun State Internal Revenue Service.
Ìfọ̀kànbalẹ̀ wà tún ti gbé e dé o. IAS Unique Homes ni mò ń pè rí yẹn. Ilé ìfọ̀kànbalẹ̀ tó ń tà. Ló mú kọ́ ohun wọn tayọ láwùjọ òkúta. Ó yá ìgbélé yìí. IAS Super Mega Promo. Níbi tí ó ti jàǹfààní ẹ̀dínwó 25% lórí èyíkéyìí ilẹ̀ tẹ́ ẹ bá rà lọ́dọ̀ wa. King City tó wà ládojúkọ Alámọ̀lá Barracks Randa ti di 3 million naira báyìí. Glory Land Town Oníròkò Máwùkọ́ Abẹ́òkúta ti di 562,500 naira. IAS Garden City ládojúkọ Alámọ̀lá Barracks náà ti di 1.5 million naira. Profit City Orílẹ̀ Ajé Ayétòrò Road ti di 150,000 naira. Islander Member City Ajílété lọ́nà Funab Alábàtà ti di 150,000 naira. Islander Member City Máwùkọ́ ti di 187,500 naira. Ẹ̀tún wa gbọ́ o. Bẹ́ẹ̀ bá ṣe ra èyíkéyìí nínú àwọn ilẹ̀ wa. Lẹ́wọ̀n máa gba tíkẹ́ẹ̀tì olóríire mẹ́ta lọ́nà méjì. A fi jẹ kẹ̀kẹ́ márúwá mẹ́ta àti ọkọ̀ Micra mẹ́ta. Ẹ yára kàn sí iléeṣẹ́ IAS lónìí ní Ansarudeen House Quarry Road Pepsi Abẹ́òkúta láti jẹ àǹfààní yìí. Ó tún kásẹ̀ lẹ̀ ní August 30 0809 294 4848.
Talk radio. I listen to a lot of talk radio.
I like talk radio.
Welcome to your number one talk radio station.
Fasten your seatbelts.
This is your favorite station.
Splash FM 106.7.
Panorama.
Panorama. Panorama.
Panorama.
Panorama.
Panorama on Splash 106.7 FM.
Welcome back to the Integrity Station, Splash 106.7 FM, 23rd day in August 2022. It is 9:02 a.m. and we are just about to get into paper review. But first, we aren't done with our issue of the day. We still have to read comments online. And I did say we'll take maybe one, maybe two calls of 1 minute each on our issue of the day, where we looked at ASU and its agitations, whether they have turned ASU from victim to villain. On Twitter, Akorede Camille says, ASU has obviously become the villain in its struggle to make government authorities do what is necessary. And the simple reason for that is the sentiment of the university students involved. Many parents want their children back in school. Hello?
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. What's your name?
I remain a bell operator calling from Abeokuta here.
All right, go ahead. You have 1 minute.
Good morning to the prof, my very good brother over there.
Good morning, neighbor.
Yes, sir. I've been listening to you carefully concerning ASU struggles and the federal government. And it's just a pity that the federal government would do everything humanly possible to see that the request of organizations, ministry, agencies, and their later on seen as another thing to the members of the public. That's number one. On the ASU struggle too, the ASU should also consider that every organizations or ministry and agencies and departments are having one issue or the other, unattended to by the federal government. At least I am now urging them to not just saying the federal government should do everything they have requested. They should consider that other things are there. God bless Nigeria.
Thank you very much for your contribution. All right, back to Akorede Camille's comment on Twitter. He continues with, our only advice ASU to find a way to achieving a common ground with the government to show empathy to Nigerian parents, then work on voting the current administration out if their demands are not fully met. Next up is Professor Agbola. Let's take the final call on our issue of the day before we get back to the comments. Hello? Hello? All right, call us back if you can. Perhaps due to network, we cannot hear you. Professor Agbola says, with the degraded level of our public universities in Nigeria in terms of infrastructure, environment, and remuneration, we cannot attract foreign academics and students to our universities, hence our lower rankings. Except something drastic is done, no way. With the demonic and satanic offer of the federal government, a Professor Agba will still get less than 500,000 naira a month. How can we attract foreign scholars to come to our universities and be receiving less than $1,000 in a month? We are jokers and sleeping giants. So sorry. Looks like we have that final call. Hello?
Hello, good morning, Splash FM.
Good morning, sir. What's your name?
Yeah, this is Dr. Logbo calling from Abeokuta.
Thank you for calling.
Good morning, Prof.
Good morning, Doctor.
Yeah, well, the issue is what exactly are we really talking about here? You see, it is very obvious that the government of the day is a failure. It has really failed people on many fronts. For all I care, which other sector of this economy or this, that is not suffering or that is not complaining today? Look at the resident doctors. This year alone, how many times have they gone on strike or they have even threatened to go on strike? You see, when people begin to talk against ASU, it's because ASU for once is very principled and ASU really knows what they want to do to deliver the educational system in this country.
If not for us, many of the parents that are talking today, and even students, we will be paying through our noses, to end this education in Nigeria. You see, if not for the clamor that school fees should not be raised, government should come out and revitalize the education. Many of us will not be able to send our children to school today.
You have to wrap up now,
Do not
Dr.
forget
Logo.
that even ASU people, they also have their own children here. ASU is not members are not politicians that are taking their children abroad. So we should give ASU some breathing space to allow this issue to be resolved.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you so much for your contribution. We'll now go back to social media platforms to get the messages there. We have a lot on WhatsApp. This person is saying, I know what ASU is doing is hurting students, but to be sincere, they are actually fighting for us, because if they don't do this, the government won't keep to their promises nor take education seriously. I love the way they said government needs to pay for those times. Engineer Ian Richard, still on WhatsApp, this person is saying, good morning, Atonda from Ishabo. In a country where education is not the mandatory requirement for president, how do you expect the country to move forward? As you campaign for Buhari, let them suffer the outcome. It is high time the so-called professor support their past students for political posts, because enough is enough. Still on WhatsApp, I still maintain my stance. ASU can dictate to federal government. Okay, okay. ASU can dictate to the federal government how they should be paid. The academic community should be at the forefront, of innovation and development in Nigeria. Therefore, if ASU comes up with UTAS as a good platform to pay his workers, then it is a good thing. Thank you, Ola Jirel, for your contribution. Good morning, ladies. Akinwale from camp. I have always said that the government have no reason to be the sole proprietor of our universities. They should only have been responsible for about 30 to 40% of its finances. Grant autonomy to our universities, let them fund themselves, and release loans to students for study. Let private organizations adopt schools around their domain. We have millionaires and billionaires in this country now. Thank you, Akinwale. Good morning, Lola and Mariam. My question to your guest in the studio is that if ASU is grant full autonomy, can ASU survive without any government intervention? 2, what has ASU done, or how far about research on the path of the university if our university has carried out some fantastic research? I believe the off-taker would be more eager to buy in their research work. Engineer Tiamiyu is saying that this morning. No, I disagree with her submission. That's just what you wrote. Okay. Good morning in the house. I want to I want to check this one. Okay. Good morning in the house. I want to doff my cap for the guest in the house for sound knowledge of how the university operates and in its true universality. Sorry. On the issue of discussion, I wish to state that no matter the agitations by ASU, the union never raised issues without preferring a way out to the government. But because the outcome would not personally benefit the political elites, they never acceded to ASU's provisions of way out. UTAS is typically example, which obviously is highly transparent and financial fraud detecting. But you know how corruption thrives under this government. Thank God the government has acknowledged the fault and shortcoming of the almighty IPPIS in curbing corruption. The truth of the matter is that the Nigerian system of governance is never interested in providing quality education to Nigerians, if at all it wants to do so. Thank you. Adebowale. Thank you for your contribution.
Final one?
Not really. Dapo from Abatoko said, countries abroad make provisions in their budget for foreigners in terms of scholarships and grants. For God's sake, Nigeria government is instead killing our educational sector with their lackadaisical attitude toward making adequate provision for its own students, and they are failing to see that their actions or inactions is what is making the country to be broke in the long run. I'm sorry for Nigeria. Thank you for your contribution. Good morning, Smash. I want to give it to the professor in the house. Virtually all sectors are not working in Nigeria as at today. Even the educational sector, who's supposed to be the engineering factor into other sectors, is not giving attention to yet. We want the country to move forward. God help us. Isheya Tunde from Bodi. Olude. We have two to go. Hold on. A country where political criminals get presidential pardons after stealing billions and paying presidential aids after resigning from the system. There is no justification for not paying ASU and reviving the university education. Even commercializing research involves money. Surakat Abdulhamid Abiodun is saying that. Good morning, presenters. The final one. I want to appreciate our guest this morning. In all honesty, I think ASU is fast becoming a nightmare and, in fact, a clog in the wheels of progress in the Nigerian university system rather than a solution. The truth is that our universities are being run by ASU and they behave as if no other unions, that is SANU, NASU, etc., in the university system are important. Go and check it. Vice chancellors live larger than local government chairmen, and they are also lecturers. Over 70% of lecturers in federal universities teach in more than 3 other private universities. The level of corruption in our university system is alarming. A lot of illegal fees being charged, that is, post-UTME charges, acceptance fees, etc. 80% of internally generated revenues of our universities are stolen and misappropriated, just the same way as to always support the banning, proscription of students' unions for standing for students' rights. I think the federal government should ban or prescribe ASU and register CONWA with immediate effect. Comrade Ismail Oloyede from Ashero.
All right, well, that's an interesting suggestion, but the federal government has said they have no plans to prescribe.
Quite a comic
ASU.
one, actually.
Let me race through Twitter, what's left of Twitter, and then Facebook. Edwin Abayomi says, this issue of common ground appears to me like postponing the evil days. The issue of protracted strikes must be dealt with once and for all. It will be double jeopardy if there's a reason for any other strike in the near future. All contending issues must be tackled now and forever. Idowola Kunle says, just one question for the guest. How sure is ASU that the federal government can afford the money being asked? Ayodabo Muris Halaola Sukomi says, I expect all well-meaning Nigerians to support the ongoing agitations. Nigerian government has always failed to do the needful, and yet they are getting fat salaries. If we truly want a functioning Nigeria, a system that works, we all need to stand firm, stay together, and demand for our rights. A happy teacher will be motivated to teach well. The Nigerian government needs to take care of its teachers and its workers. Finally, to Facebook, Olawale Ismail Olajide says, what is the lasting solution to ASU strike? Similar question to the one from Tunde Olanikpekun, who says, good morning to the guests in the studio. What is the way out? Sanitarian Akinola Luwarantimi says, the government needs to do the needful regarding the ASU strike, where 2 elephants fight, the grass suffers. Now, I see Professor Jendele has been busy scribbling as we're taking calls, but I'm afraid we don't have time to, get to everything we've even eaten deep into from the page's time. So you have a minute, really, to respond to whatever.
Yeah, sure. I mean,
short.
fantastic comments and contributions. But what you get from most of these comments is the fact that there is still a lot of misunderstanding about, 1, what a university is, 2, how a university runs, 3, who should be held accountable. Take, for example, people saying vice chancellors are corrupt. Vice chancellors are not members of ASU anyway. Yeah, so, I mean, ASU is a union. And ASU is not the only union that you find in the university. You have several other unions. I mean, you have the NASU, the SANU, everybody there to take care of the interests of their own members. And so, if government appoints vice chancellors, who at the end of the day turn out to be corrupt, there are agencies that can handle that corruption.
Right.
And deal with them. Now, but the point is this. People who keep saying, yeah, let's resolve this, let us go back, let this, they just want education at all cost. But what type of education they want for their children, they are not sure of. Because if you allow unhappy people to teach your children, you will breed unhappy children who will have no good knowledge.
On that note, let's get to the papers. I have Nigerian Tribune here.
And I have Vanguard newspaper. Okay, from Vanguard newspaper, the big story there is about the NBA summit. At NBA summit, our plans for Nigeria by Atiku Tinubu Obi. It has 5 riders. I will devolve more powers to state government, says Atiku. Tinubu will replicate Lagos, Borno wonders in Nigeria, says Shatima. 2023 election not about religion, tribe, but character, competence, says Obi. CJN, Sanwo-Olu, others seek judicial reform. Nigeria in disarray, need heroes. That is according to Chimamanda Adichie. Away from that, PDP crisis, Wike others jet out for critical meeting. That is from a source on page 35 of Vanguard newspaper. Also from Vanguard newspaper, strike asked to consider FG's offer at NEC meeting next week. Soyinka questions federal government. Why ban IPOP and leave Miyetti Allah? On page 11. Nigeria's trade surplus declines 50% to $930 million. On page 19. 2023, Shekarau parts ways with Kwankwanso exits NNPP on page 8. 2023 presidential poll, Tinubu remains best choice for Yoruba. That is according to Southwest APC. Oil theft experts, others indict federal government security agencies as Equatorial Guinea arrests tanker. Aviation crisis, we are currently engaging CBN, others on $600 million blocked funds. That is coming from Lai Mohammed on page 7. Ahead of resumption, federal government committed to save schools. That is coming from CDS, and that can be found on page 8 of Vanguard newspaper. 5G, NCC extends MAFAB's rollout by 5 months on page 11. And that's about it on Vanguard newspaper.
From Nigerian Tribune, lead story at NBA conference, Atiku Shetima Obi X-ray Nigeria's problems, proffer solutions. Atiku unveils plans for phased devolution of power to federating units. Tinubu's government will replicate Borno, Lagos wonders. Shetima says. We'll definitely get into this. 2023 election should not be based on religion, tribe, but character and competence, Obi says. Abducted humanitarian worker released after 20 months in Boko Haram's den. 18 suspected kidnappers arrested in Benue. Army says murder of Yobe cleric. Investigation in progress to authenticate the identities of suspects. Students call for PPP to fund universities. APCON changes name, now ARCON. Bans use of foreign models, voiceover artists. Why prescribe IPOB and not Miyetti Allah? Soyinka asks federal government. $600 million trapped funds. Foreign airlines, home countries uncomfortable. Federal government working on impasse, ministry says. Federal government introduces rotavirus vaccine to avert over 110,000 children's death. Water tank falls on house in Lagos, kills 2. Lagos records 321 incidents of building collapse in 48 years. Hoodlums disrupt chieftaincy ceremony. Olubadan condemns act. All right, we only have time to get into maybe one story or two, but we still have Professor Jendele Hungbo in the studio with us. He was gracious enough to grant us a few minutes. So let's get to the details of some of these stories.
Let's start with this MBA summit. It's on page 5 of Vanguard newspaper this morning, and it's quite interesting because we had 3 giants there just yesterday.
Some would arguably say the 3 leading presidential candidates.
You say so. Well,
there were 4 giants, actually.
4.
Yeah. Why would you place Chimamanda Adichie?
Oh, that's true.
Anyway.
Okay, on page 5 of Vanguard newspaper. Our plans for Nigeria by Atiku Tinubu Obi. Well, Tinubu said he will replicate Lagos in Nigeria, and that was said by his representative as vice presidential candidate, Shetima, while Obi said 2023 election is not about religion, tribe, or character competence. Also, Atiku came out and he said, I will devolve more powers to states. Already people are saying that state governors are emperors, and he's saying that he will still give them more powers. And Tinubu is saying, you know what happened in Lagos and what my partner did in Borno, I will replicate it. And people have been talking about the fact that Shetima, gave, paved the way. People have been alleging that he paved the way for, the evils bedeviling Borno. But Obi is coming out to say, you know what?
I mean, what are
It's
these
not about
wonders?
religion.
What are these wonders
Exactly,
he's
those are-
referring to?
That's what I'm saying, because already people are alleging that Shetima, started the issue, allegedly that he's, one of the people that started the issue of Boko Haram in Borno State. So what do you think about all their submissions?
I mean, well, I would actually start from presence and absence. I mean, why was Tinubu not there, for example? I would have expected that he would be there to speak for himself rather than his running mate being the one to stand in for him. And people are already saying that's one red flag we should begin to look at. I mean, the NBA conference is one important platform where a would-be president or a would-be candidate or a candidate of any, of the major parties should be interested because these are these are core professionals. I mean, an important segment of the Nigerian public sphere where you should have an opportunity to showcase yourself. But coming to what's credited to Tinubu now by Shetima, that they will replicate wonders. I mean, I think Lola has asked the right question. What are the diseases? What are these wonders? Are they pyramids? Are they some kind of innovation that we're talking about? I mean, yeah, Lagos. Yes, some things happened in Lagos that good. But again, Lagos still has its own challenges as a mega city, and you really want to look at whether we've been able to surmount those things, or whether we've reached the end of our wits when it comes to those kind of things. I've been talking about wonders in Borno. I don't know. I don't know. Now,
I mean,
take for example the question of out of school children in Borno State. What is statistics?
Well, that's
Talk about as we speak. How many schools are open in Borno? Then, what foundation was laid? I mean, are we saying that? And then I don't want to talk about the antecedents of Shetima.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to get political. Yeah.
I mean,
but again, okay, yeah.
Go on.
Okay. Now, I mean, if you look at, I mean, Atiku, Obi, all of them, I think we still have a fundamental problem in Nigeria. It seems that those who are stepping up for this race still do not understand the fundamental issues. I mean, if Atiku is talking, for example, about I want to devolve power to the states, how? I mean, and then if he's saying, I mean, if we're saying that the state, it's not as if the states have enough powers already. Okay. But the problem is that the governors have usurped the powers of the legislature and the judiciary in their states. And they have also usurped the powers of other institutions. And so they become so unmanageable. And so devolving powers will not solve that problem. You must be able to give us a more promising outlook of what you want to do. And that shows that you understand. How do you want to first ensure separation of powers at the federal level? And then how do you want to ensure separation of powers at the state level? Because one of the major problems we have today are that we have states who have virtually killed local government.
Well, he did mention that he's going to hand over federal government-owned universities to state governments.
Well, what Buckham? I mean, you want to hand over federal universities to state governments, where state governments have, some state governments have gone ahead to establish universities they cannot even cater for. Okay, you have state governments. I have a state government. There's a state government in this country now that has 3 universities where they shouldn't have more than one. Where it's not even qualified to fund one, because people think that Universities have become things you can dash out to people. Say, okay, I'll give you a university in your village so you can follow me politically. We should move beyond all these kind of things. It means, I'm getting scared. Each time I listen to these people who are aspiring for 2023 or who want to step in 2023, when they talk like this, I get scared. Because we might be getting more into dungeons than, because how can you say, federal government cannot even fund universities properly? You now want to give them to, okay, is the issue of ownership the core issue in the university education system in Nigeria today? It is not today. They are all trying to dodge the fundamental issues in the university education system. And then we say, okay, we hand over to state university and then, to states. And then what happens after that?
Right. Well, the Labour Party candidate, Peter Obi, said the only way to stabilize the Naira is for the Nigerian economy to move from consumption to production. Adding Nigeria must be able to manufacture to earn dollars to stabilize the Naira.
Yes. Because that to me looks like a good point. Because you have to move from consumption to over-consumption, actually. Not just consumption. The only thing Obi should have told us is how.
But is that something he can say at this platform?
He can.
Wouldn't he need more detailed breakdown?
He can summarize that. Because, look, if you talk about the problem of consumption, what kind of consumption are you talking about? Is it conspicuous consumption? Or is it consumption of foreign products? They are two different things. Okay? Somebody who's supposed to ride a B2 car, okay, wants to ride a limousine. That's conspicuous consumption. And that's the problem with all of us. So that is important. We need to really understand the issues.
From some of the things these candidates have been saying, do you think that we're seeing an issue-based campaign?
Yes and no. I don't want to name names of candidates so that doesn't appear somehow. Some candidates, a few, have been able to raise issues. Some candidates have not raised issues at all. Some have raised just sentimental issues of sentiment. I am this, I am that. I want a Yoruba president. I want an Igbo president. I want a Northern president. Those should not be we should have risen above those ones. We should have gotten to the level of looking at the fundamental problems. And those were the things that Chimamanda was looking at yesterday. I wonder why the newspapers are not really making a big headline of Chimamanda's issues.
All right.
Because he talks about questions of disarray and questions of understanding. Questions of understanding the basic issues that have bedeviled us.
All right. This is the juncture where we have to get off on this particular bus. We will continue with Panorama tomorrow from 8 to 10 with an issue of the day as well as a look at the papers. In the meantime, the journey is not over yet. We still have to make a stop at the Ogun State Health Insurance Agency talking about health insurance for Ogun State residents. But let us thank the Professor Jendele Hungbo for his time with us. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thanks for inviting.
All right, my name is Mariam Oguremi. Good morning.
I am Lola Meduteni. Back shortly.